The ECOWAS mission, led by its chairman and the president of Sierra Leone, Julius Maada Bio, arrived as the junta, which seized power last Wednesday, banned all demonstrations, strikes, and activities deemed a threat to peace and stability. In a statement late Sunday, the military authorities also ordered public institutions and ministries to reopen. Soldiers seized power in the West African nation 3 days after a closely contested presidential race, which the two main contenders claimed to have won. During the coup, Guinea-Bissau's president, Umaro Sissoco Embalo, told French media by phone that he had been deposed and arrested. He has since sought exile in the Republic of Congo. Nigeria said its president, Bola Tinubu, has granted protection for Guinea-Bissau opposition candidate Fernando Diaz da Costa in response to an imminent threat to his life. A letter from Nigeria's foreign ministry said Diaz da Costa was being housed at its embassy in Bissau.
All right. Welcome to This Week in Africa, your weekly live stream. We talk about all things Africa related. You will have to forgive my internet connectivity because I am in Sierra Leone. And before we get into it, today's stories, let's kind of do a quick rundown and we'll do some intros really quickly. So Guinea-Bissau's quote unquote fake coup exposed. We are going to talk about the rising tensions in Nigeria and the security issues, defense minister resigning, Trump's continued changes to his relationship or the United States relationship with the continent of Africa, the Miss Universe scandal with Ivory Coast, the Masamara stampede, and migration challenges, and if we have some time, the Tanzania's family-run government. But before we get into those stories, we like to do some introductions. So I'll turn it over to our co-host before I introduce myself.
Hello, everybody. I am Gloria Ayo, founder and host of The African Story, and very happy to be back, Joe.
Yes, good to be back. And I'm Joe Hatagwa, the founder of Authentic African. Our plan is to help people visit, move, and invest on the continent of Africa. And we're bridging the gap between those living on the continent and those living in the diaspora. As you can probably hear from the noise in the background, I am in Sierra Leone, as mentioned before. And so bear with me on my internet connectivity challenges. So, and I know I said that earlier, but I do have to reiterate it because it is a thing.
How was your holiday?
Sorry?
How was your holiday?
Holiday was great. By the way, yes, for those of you who are watching, we didn't go live last week because of Indigenous Peoples Day, as some people are now calling it, formerly known as or otherwise known as Thanksgiving, disguised as a feast. But it is a chance for people to get together and give thanks. So you can utilize it for that, but also make sure that, those who are there are fully aware of the real history of what happened in those United States with the indigenous people. But mine was great. How was yours?
It was lovely. Now I can't say I had a feast because of this wonderful history you just shared. So very necessary history.
It is, absolutely.
I can't tell you what I really did anymore, but it's okay. But thanks for pointing that out. It's very important.
It is really important. And that's a conversation for a whole nother time and a whole nother live stream. But we focus on Africa-based content. So what you saw in that opening video was the mission led by the chairman and president of Sierra Leone. He's also the chairman of ECOWAS, Dr. Julius Maada Bio. He arrived as the military government, which seized power last Wednesday, banned all demonstrations, strikes, and activities regarding the threat to peace and stability in Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is a West African nation, not talked about as much as some of the other countries we hear about in West Africa. But they did have a presidential election while we were on break, and there was a supposed coup. Now, I do want to mention that the opposition leader, Fernando Diaz, who's the main challenger in last week's, 2 weeks ago's contested presidential vote, he claimed he won. It seems clear that he won. And there's also questions about whether the coup was staged. So we'll watch a video and then we'll give some commentary on the other side. Hey. There we go.
Fernando Diaz, the main opposition candidate in Guinea-Bissau, let Wednesday claim victory in a closely contested presidential vote this week. The military takeover has now thrown the West African country into total confusion as elections results were expected to be announced on Thursday. Fernando further alleged the deposed President Embalo Sissoko had fabricated the coup to avoid an election defeat in Sunday's closely contested presidential vote. I simply wanted to inform you that once again, we are the target of a fabricated coup attempt. I am the winner of the election. I have polling station reports confirming my victory. I won the election. So how could I possibly orchestrate a coup? After all, who is behind this? Meanwhile, soldiers in Guinea-Bissau on Thursday announced a new junta leader, General Hota Inter, cementing a forceful takeover of power that began after the country's presidential election. Guinea-Bissau has been dogged by coups and attempted coups since independence from Portugal more than 50 years ago, including a coup attempt this October.
All right. Gloria, your thoughts on the quote-unquote fake attempted coup or the attempted coup and the contested elections in Guinea-Bissau?
Yeah, this claim that President Embalo orchestrated a self-coup or a fake coup just hours before the official election results were due is actually not news. I mean, this is something that unfortunately reminds us or brings or highlights rather the history of Guinea-Bissau's instability. So now, as we saw in the video, opposition is alleging that Fernando Diaz had decisively won the election and that Embalo staged his own arrest and removal to justify dissolving democratic institutions and preventing the official and unfavorable results from being announced. So he is the alleged victim. The sitting president, Embalo, is the alleged victim that's claiming to have been overthrown. Now, Guinea-Bissau is a nation that has endured over a dozen coups. There have been attempted coups, there have been mutinies since its independence from Portugal in 1974. So having military meddling obviously triggers suspicion, but the concept of a self-coup, or what some call an auto coup, where a sitting executive illegally dissolves the legislature and judiciary to seize power, has actually been tried in Africa way more times than some may even know. A notable example would be with President Kais Saied in Tunisia in 2021. And it seems to have had, quite unfortunately, historically, a high success rate on the African continent. So people use it. It's an illegitimate political tool that some politicians on the continent have used and are clearly still using. Now, more specifically, Embalo himself has a history that actually fuels this. He was the first inaugurated, he was actually inaugurated in 2020 after yet another heavily disputed election. His opponents have repeatedly accused him of manufacturing security crises just in a bid to secure or consolidate power. And that includes him dissolving the National Assembly in December 2023, citing an attempted coup that he allegedly staged himself. So this, unfortunately, is a disturbing repeat. This is a man who focuses on controlling the executive bodies and the military. And you know what is most ironic to me? When I saw Embalo in the middle of this yet another interesting turn of events, I would say, it took me to Niger. It took me to the coup in Niger in 2023 when African leaders from West Africa, led by ECOWAS, the ECOWAS chairman, Bola Tinubu, came out and said Niger must give power back to Mohamed Bazoum, and you all, a coup is illegal. And Embalo was one of the leaders that were on camera. I'm like, you with your history They were one of the leaders who were on camera. Thankfully, people called them out. He was on camera condemning what was going on in Niger. And look at him. Not only are you a coup fan, you allegedly stage coups just to keep yourself in power. Welcome to Africa.
It's the hypocrisy, right? I mean, so just want to take a step back to what you said, you know, the fact that this has worked before and what seemed to have worked in Tunisia, you know, you can see that this is, you know, this sets a precedent, right? It sets a precedent for those who want Western-backed help to ensure they stay in power, right? If you're friendly with the West and a coup is attempted against you, usually the West will step in to assist. If you're not in power and you are aligned with the West and you want to stage a coup, then the West is likely to assist you. And so in this instance, he was in power and wanted to stay in power. And so it looked like he attempted to use the idea of a coup to get the West on his side. We will see how it turns out. Obviously, they say that they have a military junta in place. This person is the de facto head of state currently. So we will keep our eyes open and, you know, our eyes and ears open to ensure that you guys are kept up to speed with what's happening. We don't have a lot more insight than that, right? That there was an alleged coup and then there was an accusation by the opposition party. So I'm sure more will come out in the next couple of weeks, especially now that the ECOWAS delegation is there and there's some international spotlight on this story. There's going to be some more investigative journalism, and I'm sure it will be coming to light very soon, whatever it was that actually happened. All right, moving on to the next story. Apologies for the background noise. So Tinubu in Nigeria declared a nationwide security emergency and orders recruitment of more security personnel. This is in lieu or because of the constant kidnappings and unalivings of people all over the country of Nigeria. It had been initially, I think most people had said it had been happening solely in the north, but it's entering into major cities, Abuja, which is the capital of Nigeria, and other places around the country. And so we are going to play this video and have some commentary on the other side.
In the last 1 week, Nigeria has witnessed a series of security threats. From Kebbi State, where 25 schoolgirls were abducted from Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School in Marga, to the killing and abduction of worshippers from Christ Apostolic Church, Eruku in Ekiti local government area of Kwara State, and the abduction of over 300 school children from a Catholic school in Niger State, among other attacks, the country has seen a surge in security. Although some of the abductees have been rescued following days of security operations closely monitored by President Bola Tinubu, the president has gone further to find a more lasting solution as it declares a national security emergency on Wednesday. The president directs the police to recruit an additional 20,000 officers to bring the total to 50,000, with authorization for the force to use various National Youth Service Corps camps as training depots.
All right, we will leave it there. You guys can watch the rest of the video if you'd like. The link is in the description. Gloria, your thoughts on the recruitment of police forces as opposed to military personnel, and the response to the idea that, you know, it's finally been declared a national emergency.
Yes, and I will also like to add to that the defense minister stepped down. So currently another minister is being screened. I have seen videos of him where people have seen him speaking at like Christian events and saying perhaps he would care more, you know, for those who actually do believe that there is in fact a Christian unalivement going on. For a while now, Nigerians have called for the president to declare a state of emergency because it is a desperate situation. And declaring a state of emergency is very necessary considering what is going on. Now, him making that declaration is basically an acknowledgement of the complete collapse of security across Nigeria, because this has now morphed from what was once described as a regional crisis into a profound national threat.
Yep.
We've had an unprecedented surge in mass abductions that occurred over a single week. So this large-scale taking of people has become like almost a daily occurrence across multiple states. It shows you that these armed groups they're operating with brazen impunity. It is no longer confined to the remote forests of the Northeast. Now it has spread aggressively into the North Central region, and it's now come terrifyingly close to Nigeria's administrative nerve center, which is in Abuja. Because now you have various armed groups launching attacks and abductions in states that surround Abuja, such as Niger, Kwara, and Kebbi. Now, them coming, these people coming southward shows that the criminal networks of bandits or terrorists and even affiliates of jihadist groups are not only highly organized, but they're utilizing the lucrative kidnapping for ransom industry. They're now using it as a core economic model. These people have collected ransoms that have amounted to billions of naira, and these sums they get continue to fuel their continued operations. On my page last week, The African Story, I did a video where I said only God knows what these people know that we don't know, that allows them to operate with brazen impunity. And I want to use this platform to also highlight that Nigeria does not lack the manpower. Nigeria does not lack the intelligence. Nigeria does not lack the resources. Again, what we lack is political will. Because Joe, tracking people down, we've talked about Nnamdi Kanu. He was taken from Kenya and brought to Nigeria. Now he's been imprisoned for life. So tracking people down on social media or wherever has never been their challenge. These people are now on social media bragging about their conquests and showing off, showing money, showing their weapons. So it's not that they cannot be tackled. And I appreciate, the government with the defense minister hiring and saying they need more people on ground. They even said, people who go to Nigeria because Dirty December is here, it's upon us. And people who go to Nigeria and like to have like police escorts and things like that, they said, no, we don't, none of that, all those VIP things are no longer happening because we need all hands on deck to tackle the security issues. Thank you for talking about it. Now be about it. Fix this issue already. Let's go beyond saying, it's gone beyond. And that's why, again, I'm not trying to dismiss the claim that some Christians feel attacked. But this is something that, again, many things can be true. This is something that's clearly a crisis, and we need the government to act ASAP. Enough of the faffing around. Whatever negotiations, whatever the allegations and the deals are that are going on behind the scenes that we know nothing about, because they do negotiate with these terrorists, Joe. They meet with them. They have conversations. And then, for instance, the people who were captured from a church were brought back. We don't know anything if ransom was paid. Nobody was arrested. We need more.
Yeah, well put. I mean, I think the only thing I would add is, these groups have been linked to ISIS, which seems to have unlimited funds, and are finding more and more creative ways to legitimize themselves and to launder their money, their ill-gotten money. Many of them are buying oil from large oil companies, oil magnates. Many of them are, as you mentioned, operating with other illicit activity to generate income. But they're also getting funding from other terrorist cells and terrorist groups around the world. So, this is a continuation of the conversation that's been had for many years, but it was specifically just speaking to the North. It seems like there are other aspects, other parts of the country that are being potentially, I would say, affected by the kidnappings and the unalivings that are happening by this group. All right. So with that, we can get to the next story. And this is to speak to the Nigeria's defense minister stepping down. In the interest of time, we won't go into the video. You mentioned it.
Yeah.
I think what we can do is we can go into the next story. The Presidente of the United States, Donald Trump, has
a Sierra Leonean accent because you're in Africa.
I am. I'm on the ground, so I'm using the accents now. He has sent out a Truth Social post saying that his administration will work to permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover. His comments came after Afghan national was identified as the suspect in the shooting of 2 National Guard members in Washington, D.C. From what I understand, the Afrikaners of South Africa may still continue to seek refuge in the United States. And we spoke to this at length previously, but anyway, we'll get to this video and we'll give some commentary on the other side.
President Trump posted on Truth Social that he will, quote, permanently pause migration from all third world countries. It's unclear specifically which countries Trump is referring to, but comes as the administration also said they will re-examine all green cards issued to individuals from countries they consider to be, quote, of concern. When asked for details, USCIS pointed CNN to a presidential proclamation from June, listing 19 countries including Afghanistan, Iran, and several African nations. The renewed crackdown on immigration comes 2 days after a shooting near the White House, where a man identified as an Afghan national was accused of shooting 2 National Guard members, killing one and critically injuring another.
Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person, started service in June of 2023, outstanding in every way. She's just passed away.
Trump also posted that he would end all federal benefits and subsidies to, quote, non-citizens and denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. CNN has reached out to the State Department and the White House for clarity. President Trump...
Anyway, your thoughts, Gloria, on this story, I must mention, you know, the Caribbean is also a diaspora of Africa, so I think it counts. But what I understand is that they also removed temporary protective status from Haitians, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So that was not included in this story. But Gloria, your thoughts on this story, on the crackdown?
Yeah, and I would, you know, the video you sent to me where the press secretary was talking about, you know, the pause on migration from third world countries or refugees from third world countries, with the exception of South African Afrikaners who she said are being persecuted. I like to juxtapose that in my head, because what a contradiction, right? I don't know what it is with Trump and Africa. I actually thought he had calmed down, to be honest. After the whole drama with Elon Musk, I was like, oh, thank God, at least one good thing can come out of this. He's going to leave us alone and just put a pin on this conversation about white Afrikaners being unalived by Black South Africans. But clearly he's brought it back up. So, I mean, obviously he and Elon are still cool, like it. But yeah, and that's not even far from what I'm alleging, which is an allegation. Because remember, after their fallout, one statement that Trump made during their fallout was that I have done many things for Elon. And, you know, some have criticized the fact, and I know I'm digressing, but I'll make my point in just a bit. Some have criticized Elon for only being interested in protecting his business interests, hence this rhetoric that he keeps putting out about white Afrikaners being targeted in SA, and Trump jumped on it. So he's done a lot of things for Elon. This could be one of them. So I'm really shocked and well, not shocked, but I'm actually confused as to why the US keeps bringing this conversation up and now using a foreign policy model that is clearly punishing any perceived lack of alignment with US interests, particularly regarding China, Russia, the Middle East, using economic levers like trade programs and diplomatic forums like the G20 is even more confusing to me. And it all makes sense because the most public and devastating attacks have been directed at South Africa following its contentious hosting of the 2025 G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg. The US boycotted it. This was an unprecedented diplomatic snub, which basically shows that there is a severe strain in their relations. And the threat by President Donald Trump to bar South Africa from the G20 summit in Miami next year and cut all payments and subsidies is clearly because of, South Africa. South Africa's handling, in his opinion, of the 2025 G20 summit. And he claims that, yeah, well, since y'all refused to hand over the G20 gavel to a junior US embassy representative at the summit's close, this is actually an insult, and so you're not coming next year. Make it make sense. But if we're talking about insults, the insult is to not only the South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, but this is an insult to the entire continent. But we know it's a lot deeper than that. We know it's about US relations with you just want people cap in hand, as we saw at your White House meeting with some African leaders. That's how you want African leaders to come bowing at your feet. No, we're looking for partners. We're looking for partners. This is where we draw the line. All these threats about things that the US is going, the US is one country on earth, with all due respect. Just one country.
Right. Well put.
Country.
Yeah, well put. And I think I don't really have much else to add to that. Just to say that, when these announcements come out, right, I think the idea is to deter new visa applications and to basically help with self-deportation, right? I think that's the goal with these things. And it likely will be effective. Unfortunately, you're sending people back to a place, especially with no longer offering asylum to the Haitian migrants, sending people back to a place which has been completely damaged by earthquake, floods, other natural disasters that have really hit that island and really affected people. And so, the fact that they're making these restrictions is just punishing people who are following the laws that are in place, and just for the sake of being able to say you've done something on immigration. Now, we are at time, and we did have 2 more stories, but maybe we can go over them next week. There was the Kenya Ritz-Carlton discussion, and then the family-run government in Tanzania, which I definitely think we need to talk about. So maybe we can keep those for next week, if that's okay with you, Gloria.
Sure.
And for those of you watching, hopefully you guys will be back next week to watch that interview. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to Gloria's channels, subscribe to Authentic African, follow us on both channels and on Instagram. And also make sure you share this with anybody and notify them anytime a new video comes out. All right, and with that, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys all next Thursday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.